Good evening and welcome to another episode of What's Your Story? Tonight is a very special treat for me, to sit down with Tom Bradbury. Thank you for being here on our show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
I've known you a long time, but I feel like I don't know you. So this is to hear your backstory, I guess. This is a great opportunity for us to hear about where you grew up, and then we can take it from there.
Sure.
So right here in Kennebunkport?
Cape Porpoise.
Cape Porpoise.
In these years, I've managed to move 2 doors down from where I grew up.
You know what? I'm about a mile from where I grew up, so I know that feeling. So truly, though, 2 doors?
Yes.
Wow.
But the house that I'm living in now was also my 5th great-grandfather's. So he lived there from 1741 to 1774. So the family really hasn't left the Pier Road, my mother's side of the family, in 300 years.
Yeah.
Which is either really very exciting or very odd.
Well, no, I think that says a lot about this community, though, right?
It does.
So, so did you move away at all?
College.
College, okay.
That's about it.
Yeah.
And then we moved back.
Yeah.
I met my wife Shirley, and we married and had a decision about should we leave and attempt to retire back here, or should we stay and raise the kids here and live with a little less in the earlier years, and that was a very short discussion. So
we're pretty glad you did. Where did you go to college?
UMaine Orono.
Oh, okay. And what did you study when you were there?
I was an education history major.
Okay. So, so did you go to Consolidated School?
Yes.
You did. Any teachers that we would recognize that you might have had?
The names were Mrs. Studley and Mrs. Wiles.
Yeah.
I mean, they're familiar town names.
And that was to 8th grade, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then it was to 8th grade.
And then you went to the high school.
Yes.
Okay. And kids?
3.
3. Did they go here too?
They went here.
Yeah.
And now my grandchildren will be going here.
Yeah, that is so great. That is so great. They must love, they must love being able to hear stories.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I bet they do. I bet they do. So, so you are a force to be reckoned with in this town, as far as like what you have been able to do, and you keep doing. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the Conservation Trust and all the things that you've been able to accomplish?
I got started because I was carrying out Tad Dow's groceries one day back in 1978, I think.
Speaking of which, do you know this is called the Dow Room?
Yeah. And he said that I should join this organization to preserve land in town. And I asked him some questions about it, and I said, "What's the commitment?" And he said, "We have 2 meetings a year." And I said, "What do you do at the meetings?" And he said, "Well, we have coffee and donuts, and then we discuss things that are going on around town." So I didn't know if I could make the commitment of the 2 meetings a year. I said, "I'm quite busy, you know." And I wasn't. But he was persistent, and so I said yes, and I missed one of the 2 of the first. And then following my first year on the board, Tad was going on to found conservation commissions in Maine, which he founded 200 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And he asked me if I would take over for him as president of the trust.
Yeah.
And I said, "What do I have to do?" And he said, "You have to bring the coffee and donuts."
To the 2 meetings a year.
To the 2 meetings a year. But he threw me a curveball, because at our first meeting, the discussion was about whether to buy Cape Island or not.
Okay.
And So we said, sure, let's go for it. And
Was that the first piece
that was
you were?
that was my first
Yep,
piece.
Yep.
So that led into a more than 2 meeting a year,
Yeah, I bet. I bet.
which really has just carried on.
Yeah. It's been amazing. I mean, even just in the time that I've been here at the library, it's been amazing to see the growth of the Conservation Trust and what you've been able to accomplish. The property at Gravelly Brook it's so beautiful and accessible by so many people.
We had
So-
170 fifth graders there today,
Oh my gosh.
along with the teachers and chaperones.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah.
really something.
How wonderful. Now, were you able to do that during the pandemic at all, or have the kids come over, or probably not?
No,
Huh?
no. But the trails were used more than ever.
Yeah, I bet they were.
So,
Yeah, I bet they were. So what other properties in town? So if do you have a map that shows?
We've got maps and we've got magazines about them, and anybody can pick them up at the trust
Okay.
office. The door's always open and the maps are right beside it.
Okay.
You can yell out and
Yeah,
we'll come
and
out.
you're usually in there.
Generally.
And so I saw one recently when we had a program here, and the design of it, I mean, it just seems so easy to use. It can go right in my pocket. So great.
Yeah.
So
And
great.
the one map has all the trails
Yeah,
around town.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we've got 25 miles of trails now. So
Wow. And do you have a group of people that help maintain that, or
very active.
very active?
Yeah, we have trail stewards
Uh-huh.
to maintain the trails, and we have island stewards that take care of the campsites and
Yeah.
the islands, and
Yeah.
lighthouse volunteers that watch over that, along with Scott and Karen Dombrowski.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we rely on volunteers tremendously. We couldn't
Yeah.
accomplish it without them.
Yeah, I know that feeling. How many would you say? Do you have a number of?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
To,
Because they all do different things.
Yeah, I mean,
and-
we have a core group that literally works every week
Yeah.
doing something, and then we have people that will volunteer for specific events.
Yeah.
And so 150, 200.
Yeah.
I don't, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But
So you have a board, like we have a board here.
correct.
So does that rotate often, or is it a lot of the same people?
Well, Arnie Amoroso
Yeah.
is celebrating his 50th year on the board.
Oh
This
my
year.
goodness.
So
Wow.
we have a rotation, but it's slower than a lot of organizations.
But that's probably a good thing, because what you do is it's more about that preservation than anything else. So
Well,
so to have history.
they have history and they remain active and involved and the institutional knowledge that they bring to it all
Yeah.
and the philosophy of it all
Yeah.
is important.
So if I had a piece of property that I wanted to donate to the Conservation Trust, how does that work? Could you walk us through the steps of that?
It's pretty simple. People email, call, come over
Yeah.
and discuss it, and it goes before our board to see if
Okay.
they would accept it. And
Yeah.
if that's the case, then it's just a matter of getting some attorneys to
Okay.
transfer it.
Okay.
And an appraiser
Yeah.
to establish a value for tax
Yeah.
deduction.
Yeah. Yeah. And do a lot of people do it for
Surprisingly,
sometimes, or?
yeah, I think I've done 110 transactions
Oh,
in my
wow.
time, something like that. And
Wow.
probably 75 maybe
Mm-hmm.
were gifts.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you must have to do some fundraising sometimes for things?
You don't have to do it. No.
So we have a lot in common, I think, when it
Yeah.
comes to that, that sort of thing. And I know we both like wine too, by the way.
We do. There's a reason for that, which is the fundraising.
That's right.
No, we have a ongoing
Okay.
fundraising
Yeah.
commitments.
Yeah.
Because all of the pieces of land are expensive now.
Right, right.
The last parcels we bought were 849,000 and 700 and some odd thousand. And
Oh, wow.
So that's on, all of that is on top of the regular budget, which is in the $500,000
Yeah.
range now.
And then you have to figure out how you're going to maintain things and, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We didn't fully think that through as we were
Well,
starting. But as you get more property, you have to maintain it. And
yeah.
so that's a constant process. And we're creating a new preserve called Meadowwoods,
Okay.
which is going to be fabulous. It's got a fenced-in dog area. The first one is 2 acres that's fenced in. And
Oh,
then
wow.
a beautiful pond, and pavilion, and pollinator meadow.
Yeah. Now, whereabouts is that?
It's on the way, if you pass Goose Rocks on Route 9,
Yeah.
it's just up the street from the second entrance to the beach on the
Okay.
left-hand side.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, how nice.
We've got a stone monument out there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's really, really lovely.
Oh, that's great.
And we ended up buying the land over to the Oak Ridge Road.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
so.
That's a nice piece.
And
Yeah.
So that we own contiguous lots over to it.
So
it
when you
turned into about 400 acres.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so wonderful. When you go along some of these roads, like right now, I travel Route 1 to get to work every day. And all of a sudden, within the last month, I have seen a lot of changes. Does that make you cringe? Sometimes. Yeah.
The trust is my therapy.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
The
yeah.
philosophy of it was that and this was developed quite early, that there are some places that all of us should hold in common, that are really essential to the character of the community and the
Yeah.
feel of the community.
Yeah, yeah.
And that if you take those off the table, then what you've done is you've allowed everybody access. That means people aren't being shut out of the community for as it's being bought up around them, that people that that are new to the community can know that they're going to have these places to enjoy and they're and welcomed
Yeah.
on them. And the business community will know that those places that people come to view
Right.
will be there to maintain that base.
Yeah.
And then once you've accomplished that, which hasn't been fully accomplished yet, but once you do, then you don't really have to worry about the in between as much because the essence of it is set aside.
Yeah.
And then it's more likely you just say, welcome to the community. I hope you'll support us and
Right.
keep maintaining these
Yeah,
special
yeah.
places.
Yeah. Speaking of special places, I think one of my most favorite spots is Ganny's Garden. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that came to be?
Well,
Her garden.
yeah, Ken Rayner, Nancy Souza, and I had worked on the anchor to Wynwood
Okay.
for President
Yep.
Bush, and then we said, well, we should do something for Mrs. Bush as well. And what we were looking for was, we thought the town should recognize them for how special those years were
Yeah, yeah.
and are still. And yet we didn't want anything over the top. This is not that kind of town, but just something to acknowledge the presence and how much they love this town.
Yeah.
And so the anchor worked out very, very well.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And then Mrs. Bush loved her garden, and so Nancy, I think, had the idea first,
Yeah.
but come up with a garden to kind of replicate
Yeah.
the one at Walker's Point,
Okay.
and then throw in items that honored the family. And so we did it as a surprise. There was a lot of work to be done because we were raising the money separately from the trust. That was a kind of
Yeah.
a friends and family thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it had to be done before they returned to Texas.
Oh, okay.
And so at the time it was 2011, and at the time we were doing, I think it was an $800,000 renovation of the lighthouse.
Okay.
So that was all going on,
Yep.
the whole renovation. And we were also, Timber Point had become available.
Yeah.
And they asked us to raise the $2 million of the private share
Yeah.
of that purchase. So Gandy's Garden was on top of
Oh, wow.
that. So had a beautiful dedication there. And I think it was, so we had this lovely dedication. Tim Janis played, and it was a surprise for Mrs. Bush. You know, everybody was there, and she showed up and was surprised, happy,
Yeah.
you know, all of that. And then this otherworldly type event where when you're speaking, you have Tim Janis in the background playing, you like it in a movie. And then at the end of it all, Lisa, who was my assistant at the time,
Yeah.
and I had to pick up the chairs and put them into the pickup truck. You're familiar with that too? And then drive them home. And said, well, what do we have to do this afternoon? I said, oh yeah, we have to raise $286,000 by tomorrow because the Timber Point money is coming due.
Yeah. So you have many hats.
Many hats.
Yes,
All
yes.
hats, yes.
So the lighthouse, there were some things going on with the lighting of, was there a wire under water or something?
Yes, last fall, there's a cable that runs from the pier essentially
Okay.
out to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And it just aged out.
Yeah.
And lost it last year.
Yeah. So is it back?
It is not.
It is not,
And
okay.
We'll have to raise money for that. We're trying to find, we're hoping that somebody will step forward and say they have a mile of underwater cable that they're not using at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
You know, that, and otherwise the first bid, the only bid we have so far is $385,000.
Wow.
So.
Don't you think the government would have something like that laying around?
That's why they put on the solar panels. Yeah, I think they do have. I do think they have something lying around.
They probably do.
And,
yeah.
and so we're hoping.
Give them a call.
We're hoping
You've got
somebody
some
will
good
give them a call.
And so at where Ganny's Garden is, the Village Green, at the monument that Frank Hanlon, who just unfortunately passed away at the young age of 106. I love that.
Unbelievable.
Really unbelievable. That whole statue, that whole area, it's really. You must be proud when you go by some of these properties and.
That was nice. That when we went to when Mrs. Bush died, we went to the service in Texas.
Yeah.
And we were when one of the eulogies was being said by Reverend Levinson. His first opening lines were, "There's this lovely garden in the Kennebunkport called Ganny's Garden," and we looked at one another and said, "Well, this has come of age."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
And Russ will be coming here.
Yes, he
at the end of
will.
the month.
June 26th. It's a Monday,
Yeah.
the last Monday in
Right.
June. Reverend Levinson will be here at the library to talk about his new book that he has out about the Bushes, his relationship with the Bushes. Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's going to be really great.
No,
So.
So the garden, that was an area that was more weeds than anything else. It wasn't part of the straight thing. So this really brought a lot of beauty to it.
And how nice for her to be able to see that, you know, because sometimes stuff isn't thought of or created until after somebody has passed. So, and
she cared for it. I mean, it would be embarrassing. There was only one embarrassing time where she called and said, "Well, it really needs some water." And so we ended up putting in a line to take care of that and stuff. But
well, so speaking of that, like the different properties that you have, mowing, weeding, like all kinds of things. have to be done. And do you keep a schedule of who's taking care of what, or?
Yes, for the prime properties.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we have people that do it.
Yeah.
Or either volunteers or paid. And so that we know they're taken care of. We have somebody watching over the garden. We have
That's
the
good.
lighthouse, somebody takes
Yeah.
care of, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then the trail crews work
Yeah.
to the best of their ability to keep up after a storm like we had not long ago, when a lot of branches come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people pitched in. And the really nice thing about the town and the people of the town is that if there are problems, most people, as they're walking, take care of things,
Yeah.
and they help, and
Yeah.
they say they'll pitch in, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's always helpful. Same with the islands. I mean, people that camp,
Yeah.
it's very rare that anyone out there that's camping would cause a mess or anything.
Yeah.
The people that love it take care of it, and the people that follow them on the island either clean up or
Yeah. No footprint.
no footprint.
Yeah. So if I wanted to stay out at Timber Island, could I do that overnight? Is that allowed?
We don't own, we worked with the Rachel Carson for that.
Okay.
So that's owned by
Okay.
a separate entity.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking that was you.
We raised a good part of the money, but
Gotcha.
they own the point in that.
Okay.
But the other islands, we have an online form, and
Okay.
you can't apply. You have to be 7 days before you camp
Okay,
there.
okay.
We don't do long-term
Yep. Yep.
things, and then it's just a form to fill out online with the times and the campsite, and
Yeah.
that's it.
That sounds cool. So when you don't have all of your hats on and you're not lifting chairs or raising money, what do you and Shirley like to do?
We go to camp
Okay.
and lift chairs
And
and mow
lift chairs.
lawns. Yeah, do all kinds of things.
I
So,
bet. I bet. Where is camp?
Camp is on Sebec Lake in Dover, Foxcroft.
Okay. Okay. That's not too far away.
3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you go up there often in the summer?
In the summer, we try to go every weekend, but
Oh, okay.
can't always do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at my schedule now, and I don't want to tell my wife this, but I've got 4 of the 5.
You're on camera, you know.
This will be after the time. I won't let her watch it until then. But like 4 of the 5 next weekends have something going on. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. That does happen, though. You know.
But it was
So-
great when I owned the store, because it was far enough away that if there was a problem,
Right.
it would be fixed
Yeah.
before I got back, or
Yeah.
the place would be gone before I got back. But
Right, right,
nothing I
right,
did
right.
could make a difference. So just being a little ways out, I'd always would have run back. But
Yeah. Yeah. How long did you have the store?
I owned it with Stedman for 12 years or
Yeah,
something like that as
yeah,
owner.
Yeah.
But I worked there for
Yeah.
ever.
Well, since Mr. Dow got you to do something.
Mr. Dow, and well before that.
So, and you were there, you saw progress with Shaw's and Hannaford, and so my husband's parents and siblings had Bucavalis Brothers in Saco and Old Orchard, and it was very similar to Bradbury Brothers. Everybody came in, got their meat, got their booze, got their toiletries, all that stuff. And I remember as a kid shopping in there with my mom, and you would, go up and down the aisles like you did, you do now. But there was so much more to it. There was really that sense of community. Do you still feel that way with Bradbury Brothers? Like, it really hasn't changed that much. Ownership?
No, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
They've carried the traditions on, and they've
Yeah.
been respectful of
Yeah.
everything that was built there.
Yeah, and
so we couldn't have asked for a better
Right.
fit.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because I think, when I know that when my husband Greg's dad and his siblings, as they got older, and there was so much more competition. At least they had Sundays, but then those were taken away.
Exactly.
So they just couldn't compete anymore, which was
Yeah.
really a bummer.
I was on the board of it's called Associated Grocers of New England, which is, it serves, there are 300 and some odd member stores and another 200 or 300
Yeah.
stores that work with it. And that's just what it was, to try to maintain those stores in every little community, because they are important.
Yeah.
That's where it's unbelievable amount of
Lots of
socializing
stuff.
goes
Yeah.
on, and
Yep.
that's what helped build the trust. Was
Yeah. I bet.
we also had the post office,
Yep.
so people either had to get the mail or people got to eat, family
Yeah.
motto,
That's right.
and so what was nice is I was able to meet people as they arrived in the community,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
I could get volunteers, and we could
Yeah.
discuss an event that was taking place,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
worked out well.
And if you wanted to, find out anything, that's basically where you found it out. So we have a painting that Abbott Graves did. Mrs. Bush, after she was here visiting with us a few years ago when we did our ribbon cutting for the Mother's Wing, she said, I have an Abbott Graves painting. I'm going to make a copy of it and send it to you. And so it hangs in our new wing, and it is one of the country store scenes that Abbott Graves painted. And I think about, you look at a painting like that, and you can see story going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you're capturing Bradbury brothers, right in a moment in time.
Yeah,
So-
they used something, that painting or a similar one, for like a Chase and Sanborn ads at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
And that's right. And that was every small town. That was the Fisherman's Club in
Right.
Cape Porpoise. That's
Right. Yeah.
every small town before television. The men were around some
Sitting around
stove.
the potbelly stove, and
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really cool, and I've thought about having maybe kids do tell me what's happening in there, write a story type thing. So we might do that someday. So, and do you go away somewhere in the winter, somewhere special?
We go to Aruba in the spring and fall.
Yeah. Oh, you go to both spring and fall. What's that like when you go? You just totally chill out? Can you?
Yes. I like to write. So we have this fabulous routine where we have a morning coffee. We've been going quite a while, so we have a circle of friends.
Yeah.
And so after coffee, we'll go to breakfast. Shirley and I will go to breakfast, and then I'll write until lunch, 1,
Yeah.
2, whatever that is, and then
Yeah.
read or write in the afternoon.
That's awesome.
I also have my iPad right there, so I handle all the emails from the trust and all that sort of
Okay.
stuff. And
So you're not totally disconnected.
no, that's
I
where I
know.
write like the fundraising letters, and we do a magazine, so I'll write magazine
Yeah.
types.
Yeah.
Anything that I need writing for, I'll try to do there, because it's difficult to do
Yeah.
here. They're
Yeah.
just it's hard to hold the train of thought.
Right.
and It's
Right.
quite easy there.
I bet. I've never been there. I have some friends that go in the springtime, and they go every year. They love it.
Yeah, people that
So-
go love it. And
How did you start going there?
this grocers thing that I was part
Okay.
of, we had an annual trip. So the first one I went on was Aruba. So it was, so part of it was first love sort of thing.
Yep.
But then we went a few years later we went, and there was a friend of mine from the company that we were all getting on this bus to go back to the airport, and he was waving us goodbye, and we said, well, aren't you coming with us? And he said, no, I've bought a place here, and it was a timeshare sort of thing, and He said, I'm staying, and I didn't know you could do that. You know, I mean, vacations can be more than a week. I'd been told the wrong information. So a year or two later, a friend of his that he bought it with had to sell for medical reasons or something, and he talked me into buying it. It took me months. I said, that's the stupidest thing. I do not understand it. He'd walk me through it again, and I said, I still don't understand it. And he said, just buy it. And I said, all right.
Yeah, yeah. And it's that,
And then,
you know.
then after the first trip, I understood it.
Yeah, and you keep, you know, you go back, and that's, you know, you're glad you did it, right?
Well, they take care of everything. I've got my job plus the homes and stuff. I don't want anything else to take care of, and there I can just go,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't have to lift a finger for
Yeah.
anything except the writing or what I
Yeah.
want to do. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
That is so great. Anything as far as, you know, future of the Conservation Trust in the next 5 years, say? Anything that you see that you might want us to know? What's on your horizon? Because I know you're always doing this. You're constantly thinking, which I so admire, and I try my best to emulate in the form of, you know, what we try to do here. But you are the role model as far as many things in town. So, but do you have projects that you're working on?
A lot. We've got a couple of big ones that we're working on now.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Meadowwoods we're trying to.
Right. Yeah.
And what I try to do is project out, so it's what the need's going to be in
Yeah.
50 years or
Right.
something.
Right.
And we've always been thrown this curveball, you know. So every decade comes a surprise, and the rate of growth was the first big surprise that we had to move faster.
Yeah.
The second surprise was when kids stopped going into the woods. They didn't play like we did. So,
Yeah.
I always used to say that we want to save these properties so that future generations can enjoy them like we do, and so that your grandchildren will be able to have the same experiences that you had.
Right.
But they weren't
Yeah.
going into the woods,
Yeah.
and unless you go in and you learn to love it, you won't, who's going
Yeah.
to take care of it?
Yeah.
So we created this education program,
Yeah.
and that was successful, and it started out consolidated, then spread through the
Yeah.
school system.
Yeah.
So so that's getting kids onto the
That's great. And like you said,
onto the
today you
landscape.
had how many kids over there?
170 today,
Yeah.
and plus the alt head from high school
Yeah.
now is over there.
Yeah.
And then the climate is the next worry, and as you're watching the storms and looking at the water underneath the lighthouse walkway,
I know.
it's cause for alarm.
Yeah, it really is.
And the shoreland. And so one of the things we did was the islands are eroding, and because they're eroding, they're revealing artifacts. And so we wanted to learn the history of the islands while we can. And so we started an archaeological program that Tim Sparr is in charge of now. And
Okay.
so done an amazing job. They're writing a book about it.
Yeah.
And found the oldest, Tim found the oldest dugout canoe in the eastern quadrant of the United States.
Oh, my
there.
goodness.
And it was, so
Right out here.
right out here.
Wow.
They carbon dated at 1269 to 1370. So.
Oh my gosh.
And they found the paddle that went with it, you know, which is essentially a board, but that had never been found. So there are some amazing things. So that's ongoing.
Yep.
But then we formed an organization to try to deal with climate, the climate initiative.
Yeah.
And so that's, we started out 2.5 years ago, and were able to get some funding to get us going, and created learning modules that any teacher can use in any school district
Yeah.
to try to make their learning local.
Yep, yep.
To empower, to educate and empower youth within their own communities. And so we're up to 80,000 students represented in all 50 states and 15 countries currently, and last week we got our 1,000th ambassador.
Oh, that's
working.
wonderful.
So that's good.
Yeah, and and I think the students that are participating locally. I mean, I really admire that because it's their world, right? When you think about it.
Yeah,
and
the beauty of the program was that's what we tried to take it to scale, because what we found was we did created a Gulf of Maine program, and Leah Lowry and Pam Morgan and Melissa Lucci, and so what we found is the kids going into the program were very pessimistic, thought there was nothing they could do, that their generation had been dealt a bad blow.
Yeah.
And they came out of the program feeling that there were things they could do. And then of that first initial class that we had, I think 18 of them out of the 20 some odd went to school for some field to do with the environment.
That's wonderful.
So it was an amazing turnaround. And that's what we're finding elsewhere too. So we've assembled just an amazing board of advisors and board of directors. From across the country.
That's wonderful. Do you still do Discovery Days?
No,
Okay. I wasn't sure if that program was still, because that was when we would have people coming here in the summertime, they would want the little booklets. And, I have to, I signed my family up for this. And I wasn't sure if you were still doing that.
No, what we did is we merged with rec department.
Oh, perfect.
So because they had so many kids, they had a bus, so they were able to add going out to the island or doing these things on our properties, and we were able to add
very
some
smart
other parts of it. So,
yeah, that's great.
So that's worked very well.
Oh, that's awesome. So we have, as we get ready to wrap up, we have a rapid fire round where we ask you for a one-word answer. Sometimes it's longer than that.
Good.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, you're not scared?
No.
No, okay. It's not painful at all. Right, Mike? Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Old-fashioned vanilla, preferably hand-cranked.
Oh, yeah. Favorite cocktail?
I'm a wine person.
You're a wine person. Favorite wine? Do you have a favorite? It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Do you have a favorite place here in town? Like if somebody, walked into this library and said, Tom, where's your favorite place in Kennebunkport? Or do you want to keep it a secret?
No, what I usually do when guests arrive is I have this tour of town, because I have 5 or 6, well, more than that. I've got a lot of favorite places.
Okay.
So it's nice to hit upon them.
Yeah. Favorite book?
That's hard. I like historical. I mean, I started out on Kenneth Roberts.
Yep.
I thought he was the greatest ever. And Arundel, Stephen Nason in Arundel is based on Stephen Harding, who was my 5th great-grandfather.
Oh, okay.
So there was a personal thing there.
Yeah.
And then I went from him to Patrick O'Brien and James Michener and historical novels. So.
Yeah, those are all good. Coolest place you've ever been?
Chichen Itza or Tulum, that sort of thing was. We went to Holland last year and saw the tulips in place.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
Okay. Yeah. And if you were, let's see, how do I want to say this? If you have a crystal ball, right, in front of you.
Got it.
What do you see? What do you see for the future of this town? As far as I know, that's way beyond a one-word answer. But do you see more of the same? Do you see things changing? People ask me that all the time, and I say, like, about the library. You know, and you almost want sometimes stuff to stay the same because you love the moment that you're in, but you know that's not realistic. So, but you've been
Well,
here a long time.
And it's changed continuously in all of that time, and it will continue to change. What's wonderful about the town is the people moving in love it and take care of it. You know, there were issues in years past talking about creating a historical zone here and stuff because to protect the buildings. Well, the buildings have been marvelously protected, and the landscape is being protected. What you're doing here, it's we've got the infrastructure and we've got the people to do the right things, and we're going to have to figure out some things. There are going to be some climate-related issues that we have to take care of, and we're going to have to figure out how to solve them.
Yep.
And so that's going to be the hardest part is in the future.
Yeah, I agree.
And the other hard part is I'm encouraged because I see a lot of young families moving here, and you know, the housing initiative I think is a good thing to try to be able to find out ways for people that work in town and to be able to live in town, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there are challenges along the way, but I think the future is bright.
Well, and I so admire all of your hard work and your efforts to preserve what we do have, and I do think that, you know, anybody moving here, once they see it, it's like they just become a believer.
Yeah.
And luckily, you know.
And what they should do once they move here is be sure that they join the library.
Yes.
And be sure that they join the trust to keep all these things going.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us. And really, truly, thank you for everything that you've done so far. And we look forward to all of your next, the things on your next list of things. So, and thanks to Mike Kelly for producing our show. And we hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and maybe we'll see you back here next time for another episode of What's Your Story?